Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The regime of Paul Biya, which is staging the reconstruction of Amazonia devastated by the ongoing conflict, is just trickled to gain money from foreign countries like Japan as support. The Republic of Cameroon's government is being sustained only on the pedals of propaganda and lies told, good at dishing out promises that are never realized. Nurses of the Muyuka District Hospital in Fako County have taken to the streets, staging a strike against poor management and low pay. La Republic du Cameroon talking about reconstructing damaged structures when existing ones are poorly managed and its staffs are not being paid is only as ironic as one of its characteristics. On the bright side, striving to liberate the peace-loving peoples of Amazonia, President Samuel Sako, in another epic move, makes strategic cabinet and government appointments ahead of federal draft come April 15, 2023, with the Atlantic Zone. Tonight, we examine the appointment and appointees in esteemed presence of the Vice President Eric Atay. We will also have the Vice President relate to the current state of the liberation movement. We are into the second quarter of this year of acceleration. What has been done by the interim government so far? What are the prospects? Should Amazonians continue with their dreams of total freedom soon forgone? Could it be this year they actually get their freedom? How is the interim government positioning to continue fanning this dream? These are some of the vital concerns. Undaunted, on behalf of the warring peoples of Southern Cameroons, will take the opportunity of the Vice President Atay's wisdom to ascertain. But before that, we'll have the prime headlines bring us into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight.
Well, these are the prime headlines for today. We'll start with this interesting story. President Sako makes nurses on the streets of Muyuka decry poor pay. Latest sad news just coming in from Akko local government area says 22 prisons and persons kidnapped. Another newborn disappears after birth via the hands of midwives. Over 120 South Cameroonians fleeing the Ambazonian War of Independence stranded in Ghana. Also today, the Ambazonian Restoration Forces kills 2 colonial soldiers in Mamfe local government area. La Republic de Cameroon meets some corrupt Muslims against the Ambazonian struggle. What do they want to achieve? That we'll definitely find out today. Donald Trump repeat resentment in first speech since arrested. Remember, that's a breaking news that you definitely want to listen to. Now, let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with Undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution on Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
The colonial Republic of Cameroon authorities are good at chasing shadows, leaving the substance. Late last month, La Republic de Cameroon sent a team on a morning western mission into the two Cameroons, Anglophone speaking zones, Ambazonia, to evaluate the progress of the so called reconstruction plan. It is funny that a team headed by an in-house slave, Confiance Ebune, president of the steering committee of the so-called presidential plan for reconstruction and development of northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, after singing praises of the road covered so far on La Republique de Cameroon-owned media, nurses are out on the street decrying poor management and low pay as well. The regime of Paul Biya, which is staging the reconstruction, of Ambazonia, devastated by the ongoing conflict, is just seeking to gain money from foreign countries like Japan as support. The colonial Republic of Cameroon's government is being sustained only on the pedals of propaganda and lies told. Very good additional promises that are never realized. Nurses of the Muyaka District Hospital in Fako County have taken to the streets, staging a strike against poor management and low pay. The question we are asking this evening is, how can La Republic of Cameroon be talking about reconstruction damaged structures when existing ones are poorly managed and staffs are not even paid? Who are they deceiving? What is the situation of patients in this hospital? Now, while you are trying to figure out the answers, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very well, Oni. Good evening, Ambazonians. Nurses of Muyuka District Hospital in Fako County of the Atlantic Zone of Ambazonia are on strike to decry poor working conditions and low pay. The health workers took to the streets and suspended work to demonstrate their dissatisfaction on March 31st of this year with placards of various messages directed to the hospital management. The nurses say they are fighting for their rights and transparency in this La Republique du Cameroon government-run health establishment. From one of the placards, it reads, "Enough is enough. Give nurses their right. Nurses are not robots." Another placard says, "Nurses should be treated with respect by the doctors." Chanting protest songs in front of the hospital, the disgruntled nurses complain of a lack of transparency in management. Another staff says, "We need transparency in the hospital," adding that we need our quarterly staff meeting in the hospital.
The lives of patients are now in danger in the facility as nurses are unavailable for work. While our sources added that they are also demanding better pay. The strike action is negatively affecting the local population who needs healthcare. When you get admitted, no one is there to administer treatment. Locals lamented, adding that it has been like that since they started their strike action. At the time of filing in this report, the grievances advanced by the nurses had not been addressed. Very sad indeed.
Well, on to our next report. As you heard from our prime headlines earlier, President Sako makes strategic cabinet and government appointments ahead of the federal draft come April 15, 2023, with the Atlantic Zone in his press release titled Presidential Appointments to the Interim Government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.
Well, reading through, he first recognized the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 1608, declaring the independence of the UN Trust Territory of the British Southern Comoros by joining the Republic of Cameroon. Also noting the absence since October 1st, 1961, the date of the British Southern Cameroon's lookout for independence of any act of union between the Republic of Cameroon and the UN Trust Territory, that's the British Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, as required by Resolution 1608.
Well, delving deeper into the press release, President Sako recognizes the proclamation of the restoration of our independence of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, formerly British Southern Cameroon, on October 1st, 2017, by a Constituent Assembly of Ambazonians, and also the restoration of the government of the British Southern Cameroon as the interim government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, formerly Government of Southern Cameroon, on October 1st, 2017, by a Constituent Assembly of Ambazonians.
While further recognizing Article 9 of the interim government Constitution of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia of the 12th of June 2018, he finally appoints, pending confirmation by the Interim House of Representatives, the Deputy Secretary of State for Department of Finance and Resource Mobilization, Madam Sarah Fulbright. Also, Deputy Secretary of State for the National Treasury, Mr. Abuno Akwa. Mrs. Prudence Sumalong will be Deputy Secretary of State for the Department of Women's Services, while Deputy Secretary of State for Social Services will be Mrs. Rakael Ita Tima. Also, Ethics Commission has new members, Mr. Ba Ali and Mrs. Remy Muyuk, Dr. Simon Awa as well. All right, before we continue with the rest of our reports this evening, during the introduction, we did tell you that we have a very distinguished personality with us in the studio. Talking about the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, Mr. Eric Ati, would want him to give us his thoughts as well. But let's all be sure that our connections are true and clear. Good evening, Mr. Vice President. Please identify or signify that you can hear us
Yes.
clearly.
Good afternoon to everyone.
All right, you're welcome. All right, as a member of the interim government, I'm sure that you are privy and you understand the reason why these new appointments were made. Of course, strategic is one of the the president took cognizance of in trying to and appoint these new members. What are the other reasons why this appointment is being made?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me here today, and to my fellow Ambazonians who are watching, I want to say thank you for being here. Well, the Department of Resource Mobilization, of Finance and Resource Mobilization, has been without an undersecretary for a long time, and it was mandated that all secretaries of state should create their own offices and their own staff. So things got a little bit difficult for the Resource Mobilization Department because they didn't have an undersecretary. So the Secretary of Finance and Resource Mobilization has actually set up an office where he has his own assistants working within that office, but he always came short because he didn't have someone like an undersecretary to help him execute his office. So it was thought that we should get one for him. And so the president appointed Madam Sarah Fulbright, who has been working with him even before this appointment. And then the Department of Women's Services also got a new undersecretary because the HSS didn't have an undersecretary because Dr. Yaya, who is the present chief of staff, was elevated to from being an undersecretary in the HSS to the chief of staff. So that vacancy was there, and so that's why the president had to fill it with Mrs. Rachel Itatima, and then Mrs. Prudence Sumalon, who has always worked in the background within the women's department. I think she's from Lebialem. She's a very committed comrade. I was also elevated to the position of Deputy Secretary of State for Women's Services. So it is just a way of filling vacancies that existed within the various departments in the interim government, and to make things more dynamic for the Secretary of State. So they have another person actually helping them execute their office. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. And that clarifies that particular one. So we hope that every one of them would add extra force to what we already have. Because, I mean, for a very long time, we had just one person working as the SOS for the finance and resource mobilization. So are these people, these new appointees, are we sure that they would add extra force to what we already have in the different departments?
Well, I can't really say how things will go, but all I will say is they are very committed to this revolution. For instance, take Madame Fulbright for instance. She has been working with Nijo for a very long time, and if you take, for instance, Ma Rachel Tima, she has been around for a while. You people, you surely know her. She used to come to the Horizon. She used to be the host of the Horizon, so she's been around for a very long time. So I think she's gonna add more to to the Department of Health and Social Services. She's going to bring more, I would say, more grace into that department, and to help the Secretary of State for Health and Human Services actually execute his office better. Because now responsibilities can be shared. She can be given some tasks that will also make things flow better. So all three comrades that were appointed by the president are people who have actually given their all to this revolution. We don't just appoint people for appointment's sake. We appoint them because they came from somewhere. We know what they can do, and as a matter of fact, none of us went to any specific institution to learn how to run a revolution. We are all learning as we go. So you prove yourself as you go. All of us, even the president. When the president came in, he never went to any school to learn how to run a revolution. You go in, you make your mistakes, you correct them, and you pick up the pace and you keep going. So that's the only advice I will give to all the new secretaries of state and all those serving in government. Whenever you any stumbling block that you meet, it should be something that motivates you to do better. You learn as you go. So that's all I can say about that. So let's hope that their new offices, they grow into their new offices. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Vice President. The interesting new appointee there is the host of the Horizon, Ma Rachel. I was just talking with my co-anchor, and interestingly, you just confirmed that the Rachel on the list is actually her. That is really interesting. And moving on, we were wondering, these new appointees by the president, any chances that more might be appointed? There might be more appointees to follow. And why are these five critical? The five appointed, why is it critical to appoint, especially just before the Atlantic draft? Why is it critical to have this new appointees?
I don't think it has anything to do with the draft. I think it has something to do. It has something to do with filling positions that were necessary to be filled. For instance, the Ethics Commission. You need 7 people within the Ethics Commission. I know before ASSE2, we had decided to pull all the Ethics Commission members from the cabinet so they can act independently without any pressure from the executive branch of government. So they are supposed to have 7 members. I'm quite certain that with these 3 that were appointed, they now have 6, including the chairlady of the Ethics Commission. So we still have 1 that might actually come, but we are looking for a lawyer, because we want a lawyer to be appointed into the Ethics Commission too, so they can bring some legal perspective into everything they do. So it's just a way of making things a little bit more dynamic within the government, so that when we start implementing the things that we want to implement, every department is functional and is well equipped with personnel. So I think that was the motivation that the president tried to. That's what motivated the president to make these appointments and fill these vacancies within the government. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Vice President, before we move on with other reports for tonight, the first story we had today had to do with healthcare. We know that you need to be alive before every other thing. Now, imagine where nurses are on strike and the people are supposed to survive in the hospitals. Who will be taking care of them? Very sad report there. I would want you to air your thoughts on that particular aspect of nurses going on strike because of poor pay in La République du Cameroon.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is La République du Cameroon is a dilapidated country. It is a country that has no value for the sanctity of life. They have no respect for the sanctity of life. And one other thing that I'm also going to say about that is, when these nurses go out and protest, I don't think this is the first time they have done so. I'm actually surprised that La République du Cameroon hasn't killed them or shot them dead. Because I do understand that one of the ways they do things within La République du Cameroon was to make sure that the majority of doctors in Ambazonia are all French speaking. So I hope these nurses are not going to be killed, because if they are not shot on the street for protesting, it is because maybe most of them are Francophones. I read an article I think it was in Ghana, where the Ghanaian government is now actually outsourcing Ghanaian nurses to work in foreign countries like France, Germany, Britain, everywhere. They have invested so much money in their own health systems that they have extra people to actually outsource to the outside world. But Cameroon, one, you are not even paid well. Second of all, you walk in an area that is occupied, bullets flying over your head, and still you don't even get paid for the work you do. And it is very unfortunate that, and like I said before, that most of these nurses are actually francophones. Because if you go like to Boya or Moyoka, the majority of people who live there now are actually francophones. They are buying land there, they are settling there, they are trying to, it's a way of assimilating us and just wiping us out. Buy all the land, build all the houses. That way our people can run and go to the francophone areas. So I kind of like feel for them that they are not getting paid well, but at the same time, I think, you know what I mean, it is something that they should have seen coming. I feel really bad because right now, with the tragedy that happened in Boya, we really need the medical personnel to take care of the people who actually, you know, got hurt during this mudslide that happened in Boya. But what can we do? Our country is under occupation. If there is something we could have done, I think this government would have actually extended a hand, but there is nothing we can actually do right now. Our prayers are with them. Let's just see what happens, because this is what happens when you have a country that has no respect for life, where they treat people like animals. You know, these nurses are first responders, but you know what? Instead of paying them well, you have ministers embezzling money and building all kinds of mansions overseas and buying expensive cars and stuff like that. So that's what we are fighting for. We are trying to fight to liberate our country so we can have a country where nurses and doctors are respected, because those are the people, those are the first responders. They should be paid well. But like I said, what can we do as a government? Until we get our country back, there is really nothing we can do to ameliorate that situation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. We will definitely get back to you in a jiffy. We'll get back to you in a jiffy. Let's just go back to the stories and bring more reports after this break.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, now on to the next report. Fulani gunmen kidnapped 22 persons, including a woman, and whisked them off to Nigeria, is what we learned. Report reaching Undaunted, ABC Amba TV. Today say unidentified Fulani gunmen on Sunday, breaking Monday, the 3rd of April, 2023, kidnapped a total of 22 persons, including a woman from Buku and Buku Ako Stretch, Ako local government area, Donga Matun County. According to Undaunted, ABC Amba TV news sources, gotten today, the kidnappers have taken these people to Nigeria.
Well, Undaunted, news source confirmed that some of the victims were able to talk with their family members, even though the content of such discussion were giving anxiety. It concludes that they might have been living their wills, especially as the perpetrators have not declared their claims or intentions. Come what may, the air is pregnant. What uncertainty in Akko County as denizens wait for the unknown. Akko local government area shares a common border with the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Here, both animals and persons crisscross the borders with relative ease, and farmers graziers conflicts as recurrent between both parties.
Well, Undaunted recalls that in Donga Matun County, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon administrators armed these nomadic Fulanese and Dumburoros to cause havoc within communities, killing innocent natives, burning houses, and looting properties, and they blame these acts on the Amazonian Restoration Forces. Well, we have a video here.
Angry for the kidnapping of more than 25 people in Akko subdivision by Nigerian who have encroached into the territory, and the population is out because they are feeling very insecure. They are not aware of what next move can be taken. It's been for about 3-4 days that the people are around parading and terrorizing the villages around the border, and the population are not very secure. They have come out to tell the powers that be what is happening in Akko subdivision. They need more security for their lives and properties. They are taking people every day in Akko subdivision to places that are not known, and all these people are from Nigeria. So for now, they have already taken more than 25 people, and nobody is feeling secure around. So the population have come out to tell the powers that be what is happening in Akko subdivision, and the GO is there under the scorching sun trying to calm down the population who are very angry. So that is the plight of Akko. No network to even communicate, nothing. So we want the powers that be to know what is happening in Akko at this moment. Today is the 5th of April. We are live in Akko. This is what is happening here. Yes. So the people want to know the way forward. It's more than 5 days that people are under captivity. And yes, and right here we are getting news that they are still taking more people at Abutu. News have just arrived us. People have just escaped there and reached us that they are still taking people at Abutu. So that is the news that is just reaching us at this moment, the 5th of April, that we are trying to have a crisis meeting with the population, the angry mob. And news is reaching us that the people are there still terrorizing at Abutu, one of the border towns. So that is our plight here in Akko. Let the powers that be should know and know the actions to take, because part of the territory is being encroached and to be taken away by Nigerian rebels who have just entered the territory of Cameroon in Akko subdivision. Precisely.
Well, very, very sad report there. Well, moving on. La Republic du Cameroon government system of governance, whereby bad people are celebrated with government posts of responsibility, seems not to be falling in place. The system, incarnated by their supreme head, President Paul Biya, has demonstrated that power is the ultimate, and any means to remain in the seat of power should be applied, be it diabolical or otherwise.
Well, this is the reason for the rampant assassination reports about major towns in La Republique du Cameroon. With a cabinet reshuffling at the horizon, power mongers are engaged in various satanic means to consolidate powers or to access power, which we've brought to you countless times. A young girl in the colonial economic capital of La Republique du Cameroon's Douala is to come to terms with what the baby she delivered just disappeared through the fingers of the midwife of the La Quintini Hospital. All she gets are flimsy excuses. Even if it was a stillbirth, I believe the mother of her child needs to at least see the corpse.
Well, the report says that a baby's mother, Belle Esther Aloriel, laments that her newborn baby disappeared immediately after it was born on the 31st of March, which was a Friday. L'Oreal said she was bewildered at the vague explanation given to her by the midwives that the baby died at birth and was thrown into a septic tank. How is that even possible? Well, she said that she has not seen the baby since the baby was born, and she believes the baby was stolen.
Well, Aurelie arrived around 10 p.m. on Thursday, March 30th, and was delivered of the baby at 1 a.m. on Friday. But she has not seen the baby since it was born. The colonial director of La Quintini Hospital in Douala, Professor Esomba Noel Emmanuel, has refuted reports that a newborn baby was stolen from its mother at the hospital on Friday, March 31st. In a release on April 3rd, The colonial director blamed poor communications amongst midwife who attended to bill Esther Aurelie, the woman who said her baby was stolen.
Well, the mother of the baby has not yet seen or even gotten any reasonable explanation of what is happening. Worse still, the whereabouts of the newborn baby is still like a myth, and her relatives were prevented from seeing her at the hospital. But in Professor Esomber's Noel statement, he said there was no baby theft at La Quintini Hospital, adding that there is a lack of communication between the staff and the family. He reiterated that the midwives had told Alorio that the baby was born prematurely and he died at birth and was disposed of in a septic tank. But is she not supposed to see her baby before even being disposed? Is the question we are asking this evening.
And another question is, was the baby to be disposed without the mother properly burying the baby? It is a child that she had carried for as long as she did, so she had the right to what should happen to a baby, and not the midwives trashing the baby like something she didn't have to bear. Well, the young lady concerned, quoting the director, saying the young lady concerned who arrived under the threat of a late abortion gave birth to a non-viable fetus. This is what the director had to say. The action of one of our trainees has escaped the knowledge of our midwives. Unfortunately, led to the evacuation of this waste product, quote, in the sink. Only when she wakes up, the young lady will be resistant to the explanation given by them. A series of misunderstandings ensued. He said news about the baby theft brought shame on the health system of the country in general and of the said institution in particular, adding that it was an embarrassing situation.
Well, reports from Esther Bell Alorio holds that she had been confined at the hospital alone for the past 3 days and her family was not allowed to visit. And the question Undaunted is asking here again is why prevent the family from getting in touch with their daughter and sister? She also claimed her communication was restricted, fueling suspicions of wrongdoing by the hospital authorities who maintained sealed lips. She told Mimi Info that her baby was born when she was 8 months pregnant and that she wants the fetus of her baby if it came out lifeless.
While quoting, she says, I gave birth 3 days ago. That was 1 month before my due date. I was later told by the medical staff that the baby was I arrived at La Quintini Hospital with my husband, my mother, and my sister-in-law. They were denied access to the delivery ward. They said visitors do not have the right to enter the delivery room, whereas the mother of my neighbor at the delivery room was permitted to see her daughter regularly. Regularly, she explained.
Well, she equally added that at one point the midwife insisted on administering an injection that was instructed by the director. The director later denied instructing the nurse to do so. Another question, does it mean they want to silence her for good after stealing her baby? And why even steal a baby in the first place? Well, let's move on with other reports.
So, talking of the effects of this senseless war, extortion of hard-earned money and promises of greener pastures turn flashes to war victims. Sad news reaching Undaunted, captured on video by a Good Samaritan in Ghana, exposes over 120 Southern Cameroonians stranded in Ghana, housed by another Good Samaritan. Undaunted Amba TV News gathers that these young men and women fleeing the scorched earth repressive assault by a genocidal barbaric colonial La Republic du Cameroon on innocent denizens of the southern Cameroon's Amazonia. The victims were promised greener pastures, which, as usual in war situations, turn out to be seized.
Well, the video, which we will play, is made in the language in French, telling a sad story how our young men and women have been duped of sums of money, as much as 800,000 francs CFA to over 1 million for some persons, promising them fake jobs. Well, the voiceover in this video sends an SOS to family members and friends of the victims to identify them and rescue them. Only a few days ago, we told you here on Undaunted that there is a sad story. At least 3 migrants died, 13 are still missing, while 14 have been rescued off the Caribbean waters. Well, We confirmed, the news, AP News has confirmed that the victims are mostly southern Cameroonians, that is Ambazonians, fleeing from the ravaging war in Amberland, who left Antigua early Tuesday, March 28, 2023. Well, full report says the group departed from Antigua, heading to the U.S. Virgin Island before their boat sank near St. Kitts Island.
Well, in another development, Undaunted Amba TV equally reported that 3 southern Cameroonians, Amazonians, were among several people who died after a boat sank on the southwestern coast of Turkey. The Amazonian victims were 2 women and a man who were identified among victims of the incident that occurred on the 9th of March 13th, 2023. This is the day-to-day plight of most southern Cameroonians, Amazonians, and even some Francophone Cameroonese using the Ambazonian War of Independence as an escape route and the ever-increasing hardship in La République du Cameroon to look for greener pasture elsewhere.
Well, as Undaunted Amber TV News reports, xenophobic tendencies have risen in Tunisia against denizens of La République du Cameroon, and the Cameroon embassy in Tunisia is about now repatriating hundreds back to La République du Cameroon. The Cameroon embassy in Tunisia is full to the brim with its denizens declared persona non grata. Now, for close to 7 years running, the Ambazonian War of Independence has claimed and will keep on saying it until it is heard in the appropriate quarters. It has claimed over 45,000 lives, witnessed over 600 homes and villages razed, sent over 1 million as refugees in neighboring countries, and yet, still yet, the international community has remained mute, watching the genocide happen over and over again. Now, let's see that video.
Voilà tous les Camerounais, vous pouvez constater là.
These are Cameroonians stranded in Ghana, victims in the hands of sailors of illusion. They were promised lofty job opportunities in Ghana. They left Cameroon believing, hoping that in Ghana their lives will be better because of the wonderful job opportunities and lucrative salary they were being promised on social media. Arriving in Ghana, no job was there. They were then forced to even bring in their family members together, whom they paid the sum of 800,000 to 1 million francs CFA to these unscrupulous business dealers. And you can look for yourself if your relative happens to be identified. Its added advantage, those who are behind their trafficking, those behind their entering Ghana, those who promise them those lofty jobs that are nowhere to be found, have been apprehended, and they are presently at Gendarmerie Station in Ghana.
Les Camerounais, 120 qui s'ouvrent, regardez. Donc, j'ai oublié de faire une descente pour les récupérer entre la main de ces gens-là.
That is the situation of these young Cameroonians that are fed up with the regime of Paul Biya. It's giving them as opportunity. They can only venture in such an opportunity because at home there is no hope for them for tomorrow. So they decide to take the bull by the horn. And why not die in hope than remain alive in hopelessness? So the much desired, which of these Cameroonians is to return back to Cameroon, but by what means, and who will shoulder that responsibility? Those who are still back home, before you make any move regarding a job advertised online, be warned and be very careful.
All right, before we move on, we still have the Vice President here in the studio. This is a very pathetic report, and for a while now, we've given you reports regarding to Ambazonians dying either on the sea or being killed in some foreign countries. All they are looking for is greener pastures. Well, Mr. Vice President, this is a sad report, but as a member of the interim government, I know that you have something to say.
Well, it is heartbreaking to see people fleeing their home. I don't know who these people they call Cameroonians, because it comes across to me as though even some Francophones, some Cameroonians are there. So I don't know if they are Ambazonians, because our people have been suffering for a very long time. Even trying to come through Mexico to enter America, some die in the Mediterranean Sea, some of them are languishing in corners of Africa, just trying to make ends meet because of this war. 7 years, and we have pleaded and pleaded with the international community to actually come to their rescue. But it looks like things are not going as fast as we thought it would, and we are very disappointed about that. But I've also, I also saw the report in Aku, as Aku LGA. The Fulani and Bororo problems in that county is not something alien to us. It's not something that we're just hearing today. It is something that has been going on for a very long time. Alaji Dampolo, who owns, he's one of the richest people in Cameroon, as they call it. Well, he's in Ambazonia, but I don't even know if he's from Ambazonia, because he owns thousands of acres of land in that area, that area. And he has been bringing in Fulani and Borolo people from Nigeria to harass our population so that they flee their land, so that he can have grazing lands for his cows. The same problems that some people in Nigeria are also facing with the Fulanis in Nigeria. But Alaji Dampolo has been the main perpetrator of that crime in Ambazonia. And that is why I have always asked this question. You see all the young men and women standing here in Aku. How many of them are there? How many able men and women are there? The Fulanis who come from Nigeria, brought in by this enabler from La Republic of Cameroon to come and harass this population. Are they military? They are not from they don't have any military background. These are all herdsmen. These are all vicious herdsmen who come into our territory to kill people and to kidnap people, to terrorize them, so that they abandon the land so Dampolo can have enough land to graze his cows. Okay, let me ask you something. If the Fulanis who are coming in are not trained military personnel, why is this population not standing up and saying, hey, you know what, enough is enough? When you ride into our territory with your horses, you are also going to meet resistance. Because when you cry out to the authorities that be, and the authority occupying your land is actually perpetrating these crimes through the back door by inviting the Fulanis to come and harass you, then who should come and help you? How many restoration forces do you think we need down there to protect this entire population? That is why I'm asking the chairperson of that LGA and the chairperson of that county to start sensitizing the people on what I have been talking about for a very long time. You have to be able to protect your neighborhood. I distinctly remember that when oil was being exploited somewhere in Nigeria, and the people of that village were not the beneficiaries of the proceeds from that oil, they stood up, and the Nigerian government had to succumb to their will, and they were compensated. The people of Aku should remember that the restoration forces alone cannot protect the entire community, that entire LGA. The population must rise up and buy guns and bring down these Fulani men who are coming in and kidnapping their people. Because they are doing this because they have the blessing of the authorities from Cameroon. That is what I'm saying. So when I keep saying that the population should help end this war, when I mean end the war, I mean defeat La République du Cameroon, is because the interim government doesn't have enough personnel and enough guns to carry this burden alone. Our restoration forces cannot do it alone. If you have 400 people in this village, and even 100 or 200 of them carry guns, it doesn't matter what kind of gun, it doesn't matter if it's a den gun, any kind of weapon, then, the restoration forces can come there and say, hey, you know what, now that all of you are up, let's see these people coming again. When they come in, you drop them. They can't ride their horses into your territory and kidnap your people, kill some, and then you just sit there and cry. You go to the market square and cry. What are you crying about? So I would talk to the leaders of that LGA. Let them start telling their population to protect their families. It is their responsibility to do so. We do not have the arsenal and the capability to do much, because these people come in by night. But they know. How do they even come in there without being seen? Is because there is somebody in there who is actually inviting them to come and harass the population. We've had these problems before, and it is time the people of that LGA stand up and start bringing them down. It really beats me why people are so reluctant to do it. Please arm yourselves and protect their backyard. Thank you.
Thank you to Mr. Vice President. So what you're saying basically is sensitization, and I think that would really help indeed. Speaking of the Amazonian Restoration Forces, we do have a report here in that regard, and we'll get your reaction just after we take this very report. Now, this happened April 5th and April 4th. There was an exchange of gunfire in Bafut local government area between the Amazonian Restoration Forces and the colonial occupier La République du Cameroon soldiers, neutralizing a good number of La République soldiers. Report reaching Undaunted through a French Cameroonian activist and blogger, Nzul Manto, confirms that 2 La République du Cameroon soldiers were killed by Amazonian Restoration Forces in Manfei, and one of whom was a staff sergeant whose only name was given as Tamba, and his colleague, a young 19-year-old unidentified report.
Well, the Amazonian Restoration Forces in Manfei did this surgical operation on Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, at a shootout with the colonial occupier enemy forces. In another report, this time from Bafut local government area, Undaunted gathered that the colonial La République du Cameroon occupier army ambushed and killed at least 3 civilians in Mfoya, a small village in Bafut, on April 4th.
Well, the report adds that a notorious armed robber known as Bible was equally neutralized that fateful day. ABC Amba TV. Our sources confirmed that on the side of the colonial La République du Cameroon's army, some soldiers were also killed by the Bafut Amazonian Restoration Forces, and their colleagues hid their bodies in a room near the compound where the arm exchange took place.
All right, Mr. Vice President. Now, from reports that we have on a regular basis, we can see that Bui, Manfei, Bafut, maybe sometimes a touch of Bamenda, the Amazonian Restoration Forces in this area or in these areas seems to be doing a wonderful job. You know, just like you are commending or you are sensitizing other towns, villages, local government areas to do the needful, there are some other towns, local government that are doing exceedingly well, where firepower is increasing. Should we at least commend them? Let's get to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, whenever we go into meetings, I always take my hat off to them because they have actually held the flag very well. And we are trying to replicate that all over the place. You see, it is not our intention. Some people might look at it and say, hey, these people just want war. No, it is our intention to defend our communities. No one in the diaspora, none of us ever asked these men and women to pick up arms. Look at what is happening in Akko. Some people just come in there harassing the population, kidnapping them and taking them to unknown places. When these people get sensitized and they say enough is enough, and they start picking their weapons and going out and defending their communities, it wouldn't have been because I said something. It would have been because they have felt the pain of that barbarism, of losing their loved ones every day. So the thing is, today we are engaged. When I mean today, I mean we are now engaged in drafting ourselves because we want to bring some sanity to this situation, in the sense that we want to make sure that we have at least the minimum means of helping recalibrate some of these areas that have been so cold for a long time. We want to make sure that they have what they need. We want to make sure we can give them the right counsel. But I've always said that the few brave men and women who have actually stood up to this barbarism cannot finish the job. They need the help from the able men and women who are actually just civilians, who are also being killed every day. I can guarantee you that civilians die more than the armed, the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. Because the Ambazonian Restoration Forces carry almost the same kind of weapons that the Republic of Cameroon terrorist troops carry. That is why when they get frustrated after being hammered by our restoration forces, what do? They go into our civilian population and just start killing them to demoralize them. So if these people are killing you, even though you are not part of the restoration forces, then why not become one? Why not just buy yourself a gun and protect your community? So that is my encouragement. So, like you said, ladies, some areas have always been very effective in their self-defense endeavors, but we are also encouraging other parts of Ambazonia to step up and to actually bring help to these people who are coming in and killing us all the time. So I hope that with what we are trying to do, things are going to get better. But I'm encouraging every Southern Cameroonian, every able man and woman to defend your communities. It is not just the responsibilities of the few restoration forces that we have. If you don't want all our people to die, please arm yourself. Every civilian in Ambazonia should carry a weapon. If you are in a community of 500 people, endeavor to have at least 300 people with guns. How many La Republique soldiers are going to come there and just kill you? You have to be able to defend yourself. I have been saying this for a long time. I'm going to keep saying it. Self-defense is a right. It's a universal right. No one should be killed because they don't have anything to defend themselves with. When you live in a lawless society, where the government actually encourages militias to go in and kill you, the government brings in Fulanis from Nigeria to come and kidnap your people, and then you sit and you are looking at who? At the interim government. We don't have the capability to protect all of you. Protect yourselves. Arm yourselves. Please, start buying your guns. If you don't know how to get one, talk to the restoration forces. They will get one for you, and you pay them. And you defend yourself, defend your homes, defend your children, defend your brothers, defend your mothers. Please do it. Otherwise, you're going to all die. Don't ever let La Republique decimate your community. Buy your gun and defend yourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you to Mr. Erikate. An interesting, a categoric statement you made is the fact that we don't want war. We just want to defend our people, our population, because that is what the international scene is getting wrong. Amazonians do not want war. They just want to stay alive and defend themselves. Well, on the international scene, speaking of the international scene, we have the president who just made a tweet this afternoon, and it's of an excerpt from an interview ABC had with him last Wednesday, stating that a segment of my interview with ABC Amba TV about our embrace of the U.S. as a force for good in southern Cameroon. Well, let's take a look at the video, and right after that, Mr. Vice President, would like to get your feedback.
President Mandela visited the U.S. and when asked why he was a friend to certain countries that were supposed to be enemies of the United States. And he answered something, and it's online. He said, our attitude towards any country is determined by their attitude towards our struggle. So that's what it is. This is not an intellectual exercise. This is not a history lesson. This is not some debate in a university classroom about what is good. It's not a lesson on morality or logic. it is clear that our attitude towards any nation, anyone, is going to be determined by their attitude towards our struggle. What has been the attitude of Russia towards our struggle? Let me start with the opposite. What has been their attitude towards our struggle? What have they done? Other than helping La Republique when the United States is withdrawing their support for La Republique military. What have they done? But on the other side, just the fact that the United States has given us a space and is even mobilized the international community by their action, by their leading actions to sanction the government of Paul Biya. For the Senate to take its own time, not to solve their own problems, but to pass resolutions directing the instruments of government towards the resolution of our conflict. That is concern. Those are resources they're putting in place. And giving us giving us the facility to carry on our endeavor, and making it very clear that this problem can only be resolved through genuine dialogue and negotiation, and going behind to make that possible. What has been on the other side? What has been the attitude of Russia? If not to sign and renew their military pact and supply them with weapons and trainers, and get Wagner Group to come in, creep in through so-called NGOs, provide military support when the West is tactically withdrawing their support from that job, so as to continue killing our people. Now they have supplied more weapons to La Republique since the signing of that treaty with Russia I think in April 2022. So it is simple. I am not here for some debate on international law or history, but the attitude of the United States towards our struggle makes it incumbent on us to stand with the United States because they stand with us. We should not mistake people being dragged to court for allegations of breaking American law to be a lack of support of the United States for our struggle. Come on, we should be reasonable, and we should see it for what it is.
All right, Mr. VP, you saw that video clip. First of all, it appears the interim government is unwavering with its diplomatic approach towards the United States on the subject matter. The question is, what is the rationale behind this unwavering decision at this time, especially owing to the fact that other African nations, like even South Africa, who's not putting Russia in the backseat? Some Ambazonians have suggested that the interim government rather take the position of neutrality. It indeed has been a heated debate for the past few weeks within the Ambazonian circle. Like I said, the question is, what is the rationale of the interim government vis-a-vis this situation?
Okay. The president spoke at length about this before. We don't look at any country as being our enemy, but we look at the attitude of every country towards our struggle. How many countries in the world have actually passed resolutions within their own parliament condemning what Cameroon is doing to us? I think the only country that has actually done that is the United States. I haven't seen any resolution coming from Britain. I haven't seen resolutions coming from the European Union. I haven't seen resolutions coming from Germany or from any of those countries in Europe, including Russia. So I guess The president made a very good example when Nelson Mandela had his interview with Ted Capel, the journalist, when he visited the United States. He made it very clear to that journalist when the question was asked why he is supporting people like Fidel Castro and countries like that actually are deemed by America to be unfriendly countries, countries that America deemed committed human rights violations and things like that. Or he also included Libya. And Mandela responded, like the president said, that a lot of people in the political analysts always like to how would I put it, to think their enemies should be South Africa's enemies. That the attitude of the ANC towards other countries is based on the attitude of that country towards them. Because during their liberation war, Fidel Castro gave them the resources or the training, and Russia helped them too. So they dealt with Russia because they were helped. So in our case, the United States, or the banks where we bank out the little money that the humanitarian funds that we raise to help our people, reside in the United States. We do our Zoom meetings in the United States. The United States has passed resolutions upon resolution condemning what has been done to our people. So it is only natural and wise for us to not just be neutral. We are taking this position to stand with the United States because as of now, their attitude towards us as Ambazonians is the best we have seen. Even from how many other African countries have even lifted a finger to come to our aid, even verbally? None. So I think that was what the president was saying, that this is not time for us to stay neutral. We should actually use this opportunity to appreciate the United States for keeping us here, because they have the right to shut this thing down if they wanted to. But the fact that they can see for themselves that we are actually fighting to free ourselves from this terrorist government, it really gives us some solace, and that's what the message the president was trying to convey. Okay, you remember? I don't know if you remember, but when the Commonwealth back, I think that was back in during the Margaret Thatcher era. The Commonwealth, all the 49 countries of the Commonwealth at that time, 48 of them voted to impose sanctions on South Africa. Margaret Thatcher was the only one who voted against it, and she had veto powers because she was the Prime Minister of Britain. The Queen of England, who is supposed to be non-political, even though she's the head of the Commonwealth, actually pleaded with Margaret Thatcher to adhere to the desire of all these other countries like India, Nigeria, all the other Commonwealth countries who wanted to impose sanctions against the apartheid regime. But Margaret Thatcher stood her ground and refused for years upon years. The Queen, and how do I know this? Because that's the only time that the monarch and her prime minister actually fell off a little bit. The prime minister has to meet the monarch every Wednesday, but it is a constitutional thing that what they discuss can never be known by the British public. So ever since Queen Elizabeth came to the throne, and before she died, she has had so many prime ministers, but none of us know what they discuss. She advises them in the background because the prime minister is the head of is like the chief executive. The Queen is just like I would say the head of state. But that particular incident is the one incident that I remember that there was an open rift between the monarch and her prime minister. So at that time, so when Nelson Mandela came out of jail, do you really think Nelson Mandela is just going to go and warm up to Britain instead of and just shoving away Fidel Castro, who actually did everything to help them? Do you think if we get our independence today and America comes to talk to us, and a country like Russia or any other country in Europe who has not lifted a finger or done anything to even give a semblance of supporting us, not supporting us like giving us arms, but at least just sympathizing with us by passing resolutions, who do you think we're going to want to do business with first? I think it's going to be the United States, because they are the ones who have actually passed resolutions. Even though resolutions are usually internal memos, they are not the laws of the land. A resolution can only become a law if it's actually passed in Congress as a bill and sent to the president for his signature. But as long as it's just a memo that is passed within the legislative branch of government in the United States, it cannot be enforced, because that is not the official position of the government. But at least, but still yet, it gives us some solace that some legislative body in the world actually sees with us, actually recognizes the fact that we are being battered by these terrorist troops. And we are looking forward to the day when the United States position on Ambazonia will shift. And it is coming. I am praying, and we should all pray, that the United States takes a bold step to put an end to this war, not by giving us peace without dignity, but recognizing the fact that they have a moral obligation to honor their vote, their 1608 vote, granting us our independence. America should do that, and I hope they do it. And I'm sure that someday we're going to wake up in the morning and we're going to see a shift towards us. I really pray for that. So that's all I have to say about that. I think the president did a great job with that interview. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. Well, while we would be giving you another opportunity to express yourself when it comes to the draft coming soon. The Atlantic Zone will be drafting on the 15th of April. What are your expectations? While you're also expressing and telling us what your expectations are, would also want you to give us your last words as well.
Okay, the Atlantic draft is coming on the 15th. And my fellow Ambazonians, this is an opportunity for us to stop talking and act by contributing and redeeming all your pledges. Because this year we are doing things differently than we do the past 3 years. And Ambazonians have been responding so positively to this concept, because they know that the federal government has the capability of identifying problems all over Ambazonia and try to do things that would actually ameliorate the situation. The presidency works with all the defense houses in Ambazonia, because our goal is to make sure that those places that are not hot become hotter. The places that are actually hot right now, let them become hotter. The places that are cold, let them become warm and even hotter. So that is what we are trying to do. So this federal draft is one of the most important things in our time. Every Ambazonian who has the means should go in and draft, because as far as I'm concerned, everybody has already drafted $1,000. Because when they say draft, it doesn't mean that you come and give $100 you are drafted. Every Ambazonian has already been drafted $1,000, which means if you are an Ambazonian and you are for this struggle, your name has already been put down for $1,000 for the federal draft. Your responsibility at this juncture, at this time, is to keep redeeming that pledge. Keep paying until you get to that $1,000. And after the $1,000, please, if you have more, keep giving. Keep giving. I just want to promise you people something. I know that things might happen differently, but what I feel, the excitement that I have in me is really overwhelming, in the sense that I know exactly what our men and women in defense can do. They have a plan. We have to make sure we give them the tools they need to carry on with that plan. And the plan is not to go around just fighting. Because like I said, we didn't start this war, but we sure are going to do our best to defend our communities and defend ourselves. So what we are telling La République du Cameroon is that if you continue coming into our territory and killing our people, we also have a moral obligation to stop you. That is why I'm advising every able member of our community, every citizen of Ambazonia, especially those communities like the one in Akko, when Fulanis are coming in from Nigeria to attack them, please arm yourselves. Call a general, an Ambazonian general or Amazonian fighter, and inquire from them how you can purchase a weapon. Arm your communities. No Ambazonian should be afraid to carry a gun. It doesn't matter if you are 50 years old. Carry a gun and defend your wife and your children. Defend your properties. No one should come into your territory and kidnap 20 people and you sit there and cry at the market square. Arm yourselves. That responsibility is not just for our restoration forces. Every citizen in Ambazonia should carry a gun. It is time we do that. It is time we do that. So that when all of you have a gun, one day we'll give you a GD and say every Ambazonian on the street. If we have 4 million Ambazonians standing in the street with guns, La Republic will leave Ambazonia. If you want to stop the carnage in your communities, you have to carry a gun and fight to protect your communities. We'll do our part as your interim government, but we are encouraging you to also take that bold step and protect your communities. That is my final pitch. Please come out on the 15th and draft. Don't wait till the 15th. Keep redeeming your pledge. Keep sending money to the federal government so we can put things in perspective on home front. Thank you so much, ladies. I'm really due for a meeting right now. I always...
All right, you're welcome back. Now, divide to better manipulate has always been their strategy of La Republic du Cameroon to destabilize a united Amazonian venture. Within the ongoing fight for the restoration of the statehood of the former British Southern Cameroons by Ambazonia, La Republic du Cameroon has attempted to use many Ambazonians against the struggle and will not relent as long as the fight is still on. Amazonia intelligence hosts that La Republic du Cameroon, through their in-house slave, Atanga Ng, on the 28th and 29th of March, held a meeting with some corrupt leaders of the Muslim community against Amazonia and the struggle. What makes them think that they will succeed using some few Muslims?
Well, the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government is scheming to use some Muslim leaders to combat the Amazonian fight for the restoration of the statehood of former British Southern Cameroons. La Republic du Cameroon is using their slave minister of territorial administration, an Amazonian born and an in-house Paul Atanga Ng, to achieve this purpose of bringing in some Muslim leaders for the fight against the struggle. Amazonian intelligence holds that La Republic du Cameroon, through the in-house slave Atanga Ng, on March 28 and 29th, held a meeting with some corrupt leaders of the Muslim community against Amazonia and the struggle.
Well, according to one intelligence report, the unholy reason for the corrupt Muslim community leaders is to use them against Amazonia and to fight to flush away the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's government and institutions from Amazonia. Another report from the Amazonian Intelligence Service has it that the La Republic du Cameroon is planning to remove all Francophones from Amazonia and poison Amazonians with a toxic spray. Well, we'll continue to give you updates on that particular report. And moving on to our foreign report for tonight. Donald Trump repeats resentment in first speech since arrest. Well, Donald Trump has described his arrest and arraignment as an unbelievable experience and the best day in history. A day when he became the first current or former U.S. president ever charged with a crime. In his words, he said, "As much as I can enjoy a day like Tuesday, where the radical left lunatics, maniacs, and perverts had me indicted and arrested for no reason whatsoever. There was no crime. It was an unbelievable experience, perhaps the best day in history for somebody who had just suffered unjustifiable indictment." Well, he wrote on Truth Social on Wednesday night.
Now, despite his claims, he appeared glum when he pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts in Manhattan Criminal Court on Tuesday. Now, Judge Juan Merchan is receiving dozens of threats after Mr. Trump railed against him in a primetime speech at Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday night. Critics, including Fox News anchor Steve Doocy, accused Mr. Trump of attempting to intimidate the judge.
Well, criticisms appears to also be closer to home, as Melania Trump's apparent reason for skipping his post-arraignment speech was revealed. Former aide Stephanie Winston Wolkoff told newsmen that Melanie's silence is deliberate. He says it is her weapon of choice and her protective armor, she said.
While on the other hand, Undaunted gathered that in the 24 hours since former President Donald Trump's arraignment, the presiding judge and his family have received multiple threats, two sources familiar with the matter said. One official said dozens of threats have recently been directed at Judge Juan Merchan and his chambers, but did not give an exact time frame for them. But the question is, how true are these accusations?
Well, the other source said Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg and other top officials in his office continued to receive threats. The threats have been in the form of calls, emails, and letters. The New York police detail assigned to the DA's office is providing extra security to all affected staff members, court officers. Meanwhile, they are boosting security for the judge and the court as a whole as a precaution.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Right, and that is where we will draw the curtains on tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at our major highlights.
In tonight's Undaunted, we brought to you President Sako's new appointees and also the nurses on the streets of Muyuka, the crying poor pay. We also brought to you the latest sad news coming in from Akko local government area saying 22 persons were kidnapped and whisked to Nigeria.
Well, another newborn baby disappears after birth via the hands of La Republic de Cameroon's midwives. Over 120,000 Cameroonians fleeing the Amazonian War of Independence stranded in Ghana. Also tonight, we told you that the Amazonian Restoration Forces killed two La Republic de Cameroon colonial soldiers in Mamfe local government area. And on the foreign scene, we told you that Donald Trump repeats resentment in his first speech since arrest. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news Untold Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor, Stesmat, and the entire Undaunted community, thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.